Hey everyone, welcome back to Installation 00. Halo is saturated in lore and deeper meaning behind much of its portrayal, iconography, narrative themes, subplots, and so on. The lore is the more immediately obvious of these. We encounter the lore practically every single time we pick up the game. The storyline, the fight between humanity and the Covenant, the story of the Master Chief, the origin of the Spartan 2, 3, and 4 projects, the UNSC Infinity. Practically everything that we see in-game is written in the lore. For large swathes of people, this story, this lore, is more than enough. It is, after all, a story that is immensely engaging and tackles some very classic themes in an innovative way, such as mortality, meaning and purpose of life, strength, heroism, and sacrifice. These themes are written in practically every single one of our mainstream stories that are frequently told on innumerable different mediums. However, with a little bit of digging, you can start to find the deep lore. Now, the deep lore isn't immediately obvious to anyone playing the game, but you can find it woven through the narrative. Now, the deep lore shouldn't be mistaken for subplots. Subplots can be likened as effectively being, say, the character arc of the Master Chief, the relationship between the Chief and Cortana. This is a subplot that exists within the larger plot of the ongoing war with the Covenant, for example. The deep lore is something a little different. Sadie's story, the Halo 3 terminals, the Halo Reach datapads, the terminals retroactively added into Halo CE and Halo 2 Anniversary. This is the beginnings of some of the deep lore. And again, the deeper you look, the more you find. Once you start to look at the Master Chief's armour, for example, you start to realise that there are components of Mjolnir that were made in different eras, different stages of the Human Covenant War. You'll find the innovations that led to some of the immense breakthroughs of the Mjolnir platform and where they came from and who had to sacrifice in order for those innovations to come to pass. But there's something else. Something deeper. If you look extremely hard at the Halo franchise, you start to see themes that shine through all of the lore and the deep lore and the subplots and the iconography and the general narrative. Every now and then you get a little twinkle, a little indication that there's something more, a glimpse at the very soul of Halo. And for many of us, this manifested in the first instance, at least glaringly obviously, as this.
This is the way the world ends.
This is the way the world ends. Now, to most, perhaps this just felt like a interesting tagline to the advertisement campaign of Halo 3. But to the learned among us who are interested in literature, this was a red flag. With the minimum of research, you can simply put in "this is the way the world ends" into Google, and the results are strikingly clear. "This is the way the world ends" is part of the final stanza of the Hollowmen, a poem written by T.S.Eliot. But the thing is, the influence of the Hollowmen goes much, much deeper than simply this last stanza. In truth, the story told by the Hollowmen permeates the deepest lore of the Halo universe, and although its first public appearance in the narrative was at the release of Halo 3 in 2007, or more accurately the advertisements for Halo 3 in 2006, the Hollowmen's influence actually originated in 1999. So to really get to grips with this theme, let's first cover the Hollowmen. We are the Hollowmen. We are the stuffed men. Leaning together, headpiece filled with straw, alas. Our dried voices, when we whisper together, are quiet and meaningless, as wind in dry grass or rat's feet over broken glass. In our dry cellar, shape without form, shade without colour, paralyzed force, gesture without motion. Those who have crossed with direct eyes to death's other kingdom, remember us, if at all, not as lost violent souls, but only as the Hollowmen, the stuffed men. Eyes I dare not meet in dreams, in death's dream kingdom. These do not appear. There, the eyes are sunlight on a broken column. There is a tree swinging, and voices are in the winds singing, more distant and more solemn than a fading star. Let me be no nearer in death's dream kingdom. Let me also wear such deliberate disguises, rat's coat, crow's skin, crossed staves in a field, behaving as the wind behaves. No nearer. Not that final meeting in the twilight kingdom. This is the Deadland. This is the Cactus Land. Here the stone images are raised. Here they receive the supplication of a dead man's hand under the twinkle of a fading star. Is it like this in death's other kingdom, walking alone at the hour when we are trembling with tenderness? Lips that would kiss form prayers to broken stone. The eyes are not here. There are no eyes here. In this valley of dying stars, in this hollow valley, this broken jaw of our lost kingdoms, in this last of meeting places, we grope together and avoid speech, gathered on this beach of the tumid river, sightless unless the eyes reappear as the perpetual star, multifolate rose of death's twilight kingdom, the hope only of empty men. Here we go round the prickly pear, prickly pear, prickly pear. Here we go round the prickly pear at 5 o'clock in the morning. Between the idea and the reality, between the motion and the act, falls the shadow. For thine is the kingdom. Between the conception and the creation, between the emotion and the response, falls the shadow. Life is very long. Between the desire and the spasm, between the potency and the existence, between the essence and the descent, falls the shadow. For thine is the kingdom. For thine is, life is. For thine is the... This is the way the world ends. This is the way the world ends. This is the way the world ends. Not with a bang, but a whimper. So as previously stated, the Hollowmen's influence isn't just limited to that of Halo 3, and actually originates in 1999 with the fabled Cortana Letters. These were effectively emails sent internally from within Bungie from an individual known simply as Cortana. The first email was sent on Monday the 15th of February 1999. At this stage, Halo was still very early on in production, and yet the email reads as follows.
I have walked the edge of the abyss. I have governed the unwilling. I have witnessed countless empires break before me. I have seen the most courageous soldiers fall away in fear. I was there with the angel at the tomb. I have seen your future, and I have learned there will be no more sadness, no more anger, no more envy. I have won. Oh, and your poet Eliot had it all wrong. This is the way the world ends. A friend of a friend.
Now, many of you who played Halo 3 may realise that there are many sections of the first Cortana letter that actually appeared in Halo 3 during the level Cortana, when Chief was on his way through the flood-infested High Charity to rescue Cortana. And due to the story being told in Halo 3, the last stanza of the Hollowmen and Cortana's reference that Eliot had it all wrong plays nicely into the tones of Halo 3. Obviously, Eliot said, "Not with a bang, but a whimper," and Cortana corrected and said that he had it wrong, suggesting that the world will end with a big bang. But again, this deep narrative of the Hollowmen goes much further than what we've just outlined here. In fact, the Hollowmen itself references Dantes Inferno, a poem by Dante Alighieri, being specifically a poem about the journey through the circles of hell. Eliot invokes imagery from the Inferno, specifically the third and fourth cantos of the Inferno, which describes Limbo, the first circle of hell, showing man in his inability to cross into hell itself, or to even beg redemption, unable to speak with God. He states that the Hollowmen grope together and avoid speech, gathered on this beach of the tumid river. And Dante states that at the gates of hell, people who did neither good nor evil in their lives have to gather quietly by the river, where Charon cannot ferry them across. This is punishment for those in limbo, according to Dante, people who lived without infamy or praise. They did not put any good or evil into the world, making them out to be hollow people who can only watch others move on to the afterlife. Eliot reprises this moment in his poem as the Hollowmen watch those who have crossed with direct eyes to death's other kingdom. Eliot describes how they wished to be seen, not as lost or violent souls, but as the Hollowmen, the stuffed men. And as I've previously covered, Dante's Inferno is an analogue or a mirror of Halo 3 ODST's story, and indeed the subplot of Sadie's story. And even further than this, just the singular level of the data hive also mirrors the Inferno, the circles of hell. There is a full video exploring this that I have linked in the description down below and on the card at the top right. And indeed, on top of this, there is still the unfinished mysteries of the Y glyphs from Halo 3 ODST, the glyphs left behind, apparently, by the Huragok, the engineers. And again, it has been referenced that the solution to the Y glyph problem lies somewhere tied up with the Hollowmen, referenced directly by Marty O'Donnell in a series of tweets where he references the stone circles that appear on the city streets, but also the broken stone columns in the Hollowmen poem. So the Hollowmen, the Cortana Letters, and Dante's Inferno all have heavy influences in the Halo franchise. Specifically speaking, Dante's Inferno and the Hollowmen being referenced in Halo ODST, and the meaning behind all of this was only known by a handful of people, apparently only being Joe Staten, Marty O'Donnell, and the engineer responsible for implementing the Y glyphs into the game. With the return of Joseph Staten to the Halo franchise, now the creative director of Halo Infinite, can we expect some influences of the Hollowmen or Dante's Inferno to appear in the deep lore of Halo Infinite? While at this point it is too soon to tell, I sincerely hope that this narrative is something that continues long into the future, and that perhaps over time we more fully understand the encompassing story of the Hollowmen and Dante's Inferno, and perhaps even get answers to some of the most enduring of mysteries in the Halo universe, being the answer to the Y glyphs. We can but hope.